Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending this evening for the inaugural Veterans News Reporter Meet the Candidates Night. My name is Debbie Hall and I'm contributing editor to the newspaper. The first person I would like to introduce is Sue Phelps. She's the publisher. She took over officially in January of this year, and already the newspaper is becoming a mover and shaker when it comes to veterans and getting veterans' voices heard. So everybody, let's have a nice round of applause for Sue Phelps.
Thank you, thank you. Yes, my name is Sue Phelps, and I am a veteran's widow. My late husband, Mr. Eugene A. Phelps, he is an Air Force vet, and he passed away 30-some years ago. But when I was very young, I promised him two things. When he was very ill, I said, I will never change my last name, and I make your name proud. But I never changed my last name, I did it, but I want to make his name proud. I don't know how. Until Mr. Baker one day, he said he don't want the paper anymore, he wants to sell the paper. I said, that's a shame to close such a good paper. I take over if you sell to me. So he sold it to me, and one condition is that he had to teach me how to run a paper. However, till now, I'm very proud of my paper. Americans have a way to say, you don't have to be the smartest person in the world, you just have to know where the smartest person is. So I'm going to introduce you my smartest person in Veteran Reporter News. First of all, I want to introduce my advisor, Mr. John Angus. He ran Choir Chronicle in San Francisco for 20 years, and he's the one who first person I contact. Of course, I have a very good friend, Mr. Bob Goodman, is our good candidate. He introduced me to John, and then now our columnist, Mr. Ed Doyle. He is RJ's veterans writer and reporter, so I'm very honored to have him with us. Every issue, the front page covers are done by him. Okay, and the paper looks so good right here. Is our operation manager, Brian Hart. And of course, I have my ace right here. She is a contributing editor. She really, and I'm very, very grateful. Mr. Baker introduced me to her, okay? And let me see, where am I? Did I miss out anybody?
Any writers?
Oh, our contributor writer, Janice Snyder. She's a Gold Star wife and also my friend. And as go on, we can have a lot more people going to help us. And the newspapers, it is a voice for everybody, a stage for everybody, and as a needle and thread, have an invisible mission to patch up every tiny, tiny patch by patriotism to make a big quilt. Okay, and thank you. I want to thank you. Today's for us to host this place, the American Legion Post A, the commander Rob Cologne. He allowed us to use this place. And thank you for other candidates to be here, and thank you for you all to be here. This is our first time to do this kind of activity, and will not be the last time. We're not very experienced, especially myself. I'm not very experienced in this, but we are learning, and we will do better. This time, because due to the time frame is so pressure, so we didn't do very good in contacting everybody. But still, You all show up, support us. We thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue. What I'm going to do first is just introduce the candidates that are here, and then I will introduce them one by one. Each candidate, if you could please state the office you're running for and make a statement about your views, especially about veterans. But first, and everybody, if you can hold your applause. So the candidates that we have up here is Laurel Jimenez, Robert Bob Goodman, if we can, okay, well, go ahead and applaud. Okay. Detective Gordon Martinez, did I say that correctly? Thank you. Randy Rose, Vic Gill. We have representatives now, representative for John Glenn Watkins, and the representative for Bobby G. Gronauer. Did I say that correctly? Okay. And so the very first candidate I would like to come up here, state what office you're running for, and give a statement is Laurel Jimenez. Laurel, please. Thank you.
Well, I am Laurel Jimenez, and I'm running for the office of County Recorder. The County Recorder's office is the office that is responsible for preserving all of the documents that prove your land ownership. And also for your veterans, it's the office where you can record your DD-214s. How many of you have recorded your DD-214s in Clark County? Well, come on down and get it recorded, and you're also entitled to copies when you need it, when they're recorded here. I actually have 6 years of experience in the recorder's office as a technology manager. So I am kind of an expert in the type of record keeping that it takes to preserve these records forever. And I became aware of some issues in the office. I left the office, and I'm running against my former boss, which, yes, it's a little awkward, but you know, it's the right thing to do. I have veterans and active duty members in my family. My brother and his son have both recently been to Afghanistan and back. A number of friends of mine are retired, mostly Army, but we love all branches of the service. And I thank you. It would be a privilege for me to be able to serve you as a public officer out of respect to the service that you've given us. So thank you.
Thank you so much. The next candidate I'd like to introduce is Robert Bob Goodman.
All right. Thank all of you for coming tonight. I'm so proud of who's here. I'm Robert Bob Goodman, and I'm running for the governor of the state of Nevada. The reason I'm running is that our Democratic Party didn't see fit to send anybody. Our governor had the courtesy of being able to say, at least when we're running, at least we look at us that we each pay $300, and at least he gave us a little credit. I'm running because I'm a veteran. I've been a veteran of the Marine Corps. I love this state, and anything I can do for the veterans at any time. So I'm telling you, I think my phone is ringing, which never rings ever, but I'm going to let it die. It doesn't matter. I spent a lot of time here in our Veterans Hospital. They've been very good to me. I've had a stroke, had a couple of cancers. My main purpose, if I do anything, which I'm not looking to win, but I'm looking to make a statement. And the statement is where are the candidates tonight? They should be all here. This is the veterans, for God's sake. And Sue has done so much with the paper. We as veterans have got to stand together. And it seems like when they need us, they want us. When they don't want us, they don't think about us. So that's all I'm going to say. Thank you so much for coming. More important, thanks Sue for doing this. It's just wonderful. It's the first one, and I'm going to live long enough to see the 10th one. So thank you guys so much.
So let's make a note now. If everyone can turn your phone to silence, that would be great. Let's all look at our phones, make sure it's turned to silent. Thank you. Next person I would like to introduce is Randy Rose.
Hello everyone, my name is Randy Rose. I'm running for Commission E. How many of us live in Commission E? Anybody? I know there's a few of you that live here. So I'm asking for your vote tonight. I'm also having a fundraiser next Monday at Ferraro's between 5 and 7. You're all invited to come. Basically, a little bit about myself. I've always been the man behind the candidate, okay? I try to get people elected. But then what happened this year? I mean, basically, I tried to get Chris Edwards elected last time. I was going to try to get Annette Tierra elected this time because I think she's the best candidate for District 1 because she's going to co-sponsor the Fair Tax Act, which I'm very much behind. Now, a little bit about myself. I'm a realtor. I also invented a football board game, BigSunday.com. I'm running for Commission E primarily because I feel like the entire commission has lost touch with the people of Clark County. We've got a commission up there of 7 Democrats who feel that they have to make everybody equal. So along comes Station Casinos, along comes these other guys, Caesars, and they're going, wham, Dottie's is doing better than we want them to do. So what does the commission do? Oh, they go and start a war against Dottie's. I say, if Dottie's doing better than you, then why don't you go open up your own little thing like Dottie's and compete with her? Don't come to the commission crying, trying to get the commission to be your big arm to beat down Dottie's. I mean, just for that right there, okay. Number 2, they raised their pay by 10% and told the employees to take a hike. I mean, that is just ridiculous right there. If I'm elected, I'm going to get them to cut their 10% and give a 10% raise to the employees. But if I'm the only one that gets elected that's a Republican, I'm up against 6 Democrats, and there's no way they're gonna do that. So we need, Bonaventura's running down in G, and Cindy Lake. There's a lot of good people down in G that are running for the commission. I think we should get more Republicans on the commission, because remember back in the good old days when Las Vegas was great and the economy was great, we got the 215 bill. Who was in charge of the commission then? The Republicans. But now that we've got 7 Democrats up there, and it's all about doing the things that the Democrats like to do, which is raise taxes. I mean, 4 out of 7 of them raise taxes. The guy that I'm running against, Joe Thibodeau, in the primary said he'll be the 5th person to raise taxes, and that's what you need. 5 out of 7 to raise the sales tax. I never met so many Republicans that love taxes until I met Joe Thibodeau and a couple other progressive Democrats out there that just love taxes, or Republicans that love taxes like the progressive Democrats love taxes. I am against taxes. I'm for small government. The way to get an economy to go is you cut taxes, you cut spending, and the economy will go up. That's been proven time and time again. And then you wonder why our economy is going down today? Because we've got an administration up there, and locally too, that wants to raise taxes, raise spending, and they don't understand why the economy is going down. The last, just presidential-wise, the last conservative we have had in office was in 1923. He cut taxes by 50%, he cut spending by 50%, and we now call that the Roaring 20s.
Yeah.
So if you want to see the Roaring 20s in Las Vegas, Nevada, you want to see the economy take off, vote Republican, vote for Randy Rose, and if you don't live in Commission E, call your friends who live in Commission E, tell them to vote for Randy Rose. Thank you.
The next candidate I'd like to invite up here is Detective Gordon Martinez.
Thank you very much for inviting me to come and speak to you tonight. This is my 4th time running for Clark County Sheriff. I've been a law enforcement officer for 40 years. I don't have any military experience, but I think the 40-year law enforcement service semi-qualifies for that part. I don't know where all my other colleagues, my other sheriff candidate colleagues are. I think maybe they got scared away. I made a statement on the last sheriff's debate by the Black Caucus over there on Bartlett at the church. I started out my statement by saying, everybody take a real good look at some of the panelists here, at some of the other sheriff's candidates, because and take a picture, because some of them aren't going to be around much longer. They're going to be indicted for murder, okay? There's a lot of interesting things that have come out this last year. I filed a federal lawsuit against the LVMPD, Sheriff Gillespie, and 14 other high-ranking police officers for corruption and for various felonies and criminal activity and cover-ups. Some of them could, you may have remembered them, the Costco, Eric Scott, Trevon Cole, Suave Lopez. My goal is to bring out the truth of what's going on in your police department. It's my beloved police department, and this community is my beloved community, and I've done everything in my power internally to make it better. Well, now I'm going externally now. So I have all gag orders removed from me, so please prepare your most potent questions. Make sure that they're deep-seated, and I will answer you truthfully about everything and anything that with regards to the police department. Now, in the federal lawsuit, legal depositions were taken last June, July of 2013. From those legal depositions came 4 unsolved murders, whereby the LVMPD administration and past administration are complicit. One of them being an egregious murder would be to LVMPD officer Kevin Scott Daly, the 39-year officer who they found his severed head by Lake Mead in the Henderson jurisdiction December 5th, 2007. Now, some of you may have not noticed that in the paper or even in the news. That's because it wasn't there. It was investigated by the Henderson Police Department and the LVMPD administration. Now, this is after it was not, did I say it was not investigated. There was no report done. This was a complete cover-up. Officer Daly failed to show up for work for about a month. He was AWOL, and his co-workers decided, well, what's going on here? Where's Kevin? They were told not to address the situation, that everything was under control by upper administration. A passerby found Officer Daly's burned out vehicle by Lake Mead in Henderson jurisdiction. Henderson police went out, investigated that, impounded the car, and that was the end of it. Still no missing persons, still no homicide investigation. Next thing that had happened is Officer Daly's co-workers formed a volunteer search party to go out and maybe uncover something where the car was found. They didn't have to look far. 300 feet away from where the car was Officer Daly's severed head. No body, no nothing, just his severed head. This is probably the most egregious cover-up and act that I have heard since I've been in this community for 36 years as a loyal police officer. That I will not stop until this is cleared up. And it all points to the LVMPD current and past administration. So, what I'm going to offer you is a constitutional sheriff. I've been a constitutional sheriff ever since I first started running, 2002 for sheriff. I am a lifetime oath keeper. If I was sheriff for the day, the situation out there at the Bundy Ranch would not have occurred. It would have been stopped before anything like that was to happen. Now understand, I don't have my pay grade isn't as high, or my intelligence and knowledge isn't very well versed in property rights and grazing rights. But I do know about the treatment that the BLM officers gave toward those protesters and violated their First Amendment rights, and I would not stand for it. So, with that, please prepare your questions, and let's make this a nice hot debate. Thank you.
The next candidate I would like to introduce is Vic Gill.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Rod, for opening up the post to have us here. My name is Vic Gill. I'm the Republican candidate for State Senate in District 9. District 9 is a district in the southwest of the valley, Southern Highlands, Mountain's Edge, Rhodes Ranch, extends up the west side of the 215 to Siena. I'm running for State Senate first and foremost to make a difference. My background is in healthcare. I'm a medical doctor of education, but I work in healthcare management on behalf of veterans and patients on their healthcare issues. I've worked on a lot of veterans' healthcare cases where potentially they have not received the care they are due at the VA. They have not been given the right quality of care maybe when it comes to some of the medical issues they face. One of the main issues in my election is going to be healthcare. I think this is not a partisan issue, a Democratic issue, a Republican issue, or an independent issue. Everybody wants quality healthcare. When they get sick, they don't wonder if their doctor or their hospital is a Democratic hospital, Republican hospital, or an independent hospital. One of the things that I think is important in an election, and my election is uniquely important in this sense, the state Senate currently is 11 Democrats and 10 Republicans. The only seat that can change that balance is my district. Where your politics lie, I would say this much: the Democratic State Senator won by 300 votes 2 years ago. So it's a real opportunity where we can have what I like to call my politics is not Republican politics, but common sense conservatism, where we believe in a limited government, a government that's accountable to the people. As a state senator, I've been going around talking to people, and I believe there's a fundamental frustration, to put it lightly, with our government, both in D.C., especially in D.C., but also here in Nevada. I think what people are looking for is a level of common sense where we can address these issues of concern. For me, it is healthcare. For me, it is the economy. For me, it is education. In regards to healthcare, I've been telling people in my district, and I'll tell you here today, the first piece of legislation that I will introduce, and if I can get it first to the Senate desk, would be the first piece of legislation introduced in the next legislative session is the Patient's Bill of Rights. And a Patient's Bill of Rights that allows patients to make their own healthcare decisions, not the government and not anybody else. I think that is the basis of healthcare, and we should pass that basic right. I think people have felt that in a prima facie way, to borrow a legal term, what government is doing in the healthcare system is not right. And I want to rectify that. I want to rectify that here in Nevada. But part of my Patient's Bill of Rights is this. I've learned through the work that I've done here in Southern Nevada on behalf of veterans is that we do have a federal VA system that's not working for our veterans. And I'm not sitting here promising you I can change the VA system, because I'm not. I'm a state senator. But I believe we can do this. First of all, I will push all of our federal legislators. In my district, it's Dr. Joe Heck, who himself is a veteran or is currently serving, to make sure that we can fix the VA system here in Las Vegas. But I want to create a Patient's Bill of Rights, and one of those planks is to ensure that all Nevadans, all veterans here in the state of Nevada, receive prompt and appropriate medical care. What does that mean? That means improving our healthcare system here in Nevada outside of the VA system, where we can have an independent system of healthcare providers who will service veterans' needs. May they be in acute care or chronic care, if there are psychological or psychiatric conditions that need to be treated on a constant basis, we should develop partnerships through the state with independent providers in order to provide that care. I believe that is the best way to honor service of our veterans. Coming into the room, we saw the single-seated table outside, and it made me think about it. My background is I'm the son of immigrants, a mother from India, a father from East Africa, who came to this country because of the American dream. The American dream that says if you work hard, you play by the rules, anyone from anywhere can be anything. But unfortunately, that dream is not free. Freedom is not free. It's on the backs of Gold Star mothers who have lost their son fighting for those freedoms. For me, I feel like if as a state senator, if there's something I can do to help those veterans, those families, that's what I'm going to do. I had an earlier conversation here with Daryl, who has a company here in Nevada. Another part of my plank when it comes to veterans is also a general plank, but it's improving our economy. We are not going to be able to tax and regulate our way to growth. I'm opposed to taxing hardworking Nevadans and small businesses. Daryl's going to talk to us about his small business that he's created. We were talking about when I'm a state senator and your business is up and roaring, I want to be part of that expansion, and that is to promote small businesses and business growth here in Nevada, to support our current industries, but also to have a tax environment to bring people here to Nevada. That is what I hope to do. I hope to be a common sense representative. I think all too often, on both sides of the aisle, Democrat and Republican, we have elected officials whose their main interest is not the people's interest. It's their own interest or big business or special interest, but it's not the people's interest. One of my favorite presidents outside of Ronald Reagan was President Abraham Lincoln. And he said in 1839 at the Gettysburg Address, "A government of the people, by the people, for the people shall never perish from the face of the earth." I believe in that. I believe in this nation. I want to fight for this nation. And it's great to be here. It's great to answer any questions you may have on healthcare or the economy. But it's people like you. I talk to people in certain rooms, and there's maybe nobody in this. Well, actually, we have a good friend, Phil, is in the back. He does live in my district, so I got one vote here. But it's not about the votes, because as a state senator, you may not be able to vote for me, but I'll always vote for you. And that's my promise to you here today. That's my promise to you as a state senator, and you can hold me to it. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
The next candidate I'd like to bring up is Harley Colkin.
Thank you for this opportunity tonight to speak to you. Politics is anything but what you think it is. Let me give you a few facts about Nevada. We rank number 50 in job opportunities, number 50 in education, 50 in unemployment, 46 in healthcare, 42 in state integrity, and I'll explain that in a moment. Number 1 in bankruptcies, 2 in foreclosures, 3 in short sales, number 1 in illicit drug use, number 2 in suicides, 3 in firearms deaths, number 4 in drug overdose deaths. Nevada's corruption risk report card, like I said, we're number 42, is as follows. Public access to information, D. Executive accountability, C-, judicial accountability, D+, civil service management, D-, internal auditing, F, state pension fund management, F, state insurance commission, F, political financing, D-, legislative accountability, D, state budget process, D-, procurement, B-, the only thing we do, halfway decent. Lobbying disclosure, F, ethics enforcement agencies, F, redistricting, D. And the list like that goes on, and we've been that way for years and years, and yet the public keeps voting for the same people over and over. When term limits come up, they just voting in another office. It just never ends. Talk about insanity. Currently, I'm the chairman of the hometown board, and when I ran for election, I said I would always do what's in the best interest of the people, but not necessarily what they wanted at the moment. And I've been on the town board for 3 years. I've worked really hard for economic development tourism. As an example, the town of Pahrump, through an act of Congress, received 400 acres of land many years ago, and nothing happened with it. I'm a very good consensus builder. I get along with all people, and I can get things to happen that other people can't. We hired a former head Imagineer of Disney. We designed a 400-acre project for tourism, and it's slowly moving forward. We're not a city, we're not an incorporated town, and unfortunately we don't have the relationship with the county commissioners that we would like to have, but we are moving forward. I don't believe in partisan politics. That's what's destroying our country. If you want to know what a Democrat means, ask me what I think it means, because that's what's important to you, not what you think it means. I think it means that I fight for what's right for the common working man. These are working man's hands. And I think we've been shortchanged big time. Politics is a social club, and if you think it isn't, you're mistaken. I just gave you the results of where Nevada stands, and like I said, they've been that way for many years. Especially the governor, lieutenant governor, assembly, senate. Most of these people make a lot of money per hour. Let's just talk about my office. It pays $60,000, if I get that job, it pays $60,000 a year. I'm a blue collar guy, it's not a bad wage. It's $30 an hour. Well, who normally gets that job? An attorney, what do they make? $300 an hour. Well, do the math, $645,000 a year. Now, which job do you think they're going to favor? Remember, lieutenant governor is a part-time job. Do you think they're really going to give it its all? Why is it a part-time job? Isn't economic development, tourism very important to the state?
Yeah.
Well, it's because nobody that's ever had that office, in my opinion, has ever taken it very seriously and made it a full-time job of being out there and developing things like what Darrell wants to bring forward. You know, California, as you all know, is one of those. It's probably the only state in the nation that actually has one of the strongest economies in the world. And when they leave that state, right through Nevada out to somewhere else, how come we're not making money off of that? You know, people are against Yucca Mountain as an example. That doesn't seem too bright to me. We would be the only state in the nation that brought nuclear waste here, recycled it, and put it back in the world. Isn't that better for the world, not to have nuclear waste piling up all over the place? It's, you know, you should never have the attitude, stop this, stop that. And I'll explain to you why. Because government is a business, and it's in the business of providing services. And guess what? We tax you to fund that business. So when you're always against everything that would supplement your taxes by bringing commerce in, then the only answer is that we just tax you more. So who's at fault if you won't support us trying to do things? Government likes to compensate for failure. It's an expert at that, right? Like I said, we rate number 50 in education, 46 in healthcare. Those are extremely important to business that wants to move to your state. So why would you shortchange it? Number 50, I mean, that's really hard to fathom. We're the worst state in the nation for education. That's unbelievable. And so all they do is cut things or rob Peter to pay Paul. My opponent for Lieutenant Governor's office supported a bill which passed that they took money from Northern Nevada and brought it down to Southern Nevada schools. Well, it really didn't help Southern Nevada very much, and all you did was penalize Northern Nevada. That's, you know, you always look at the cause of things, not the result. That was looking at the result. How can I patch something? You look at the cause, and the cause is Nevada doesn't bring enough revenue in. It's as simple as that. So you need to be business friendly. Is it really hard to bring business to Nevada? No, it isn't. And the reason why it doesn't happen is because mining and gaming control this state. And if you think I'm wrong, look at the campaign contributions to the people that run for office. When I ran for state senate last time, my opponent got $135,000 in campaign contributions, and I got about $2,500. Who do you think wins? It's always about the money. So mining, as an example, pays 5% of the net. Well, one time when I was up in Elko attending a state function, a guy from the mining industry bragging about how great mining is for Nevada says, we pay $250 million in taxes. Well, most of the people, wow, they're clapping, thinking that's great. Well, I said, well, that doesn't mean anything. Give me a number to compare it to. How much do you gross? I don't know, he says. I says, well, how much do you net? I don't know, he says. Well, let me give you the number, $8 billion. And they give us a lousy $250 million. And you want to ask me why we're number 50 in education? It has to stop. Every candidate function I attend isn't like this, and I want to thank you very much for this forum. We get to speak our own minds, and you're listening. I wish there was way more people here, because they need to hear this. Most of them are just rigged, like the Veterans in Politics thing with, he was there with me. What a dog and pony show that was. And I felt that they disgraced the name or the word veteran, because it was just 12 people that were asking questions, and they only focused on the anointed candidate, so that's when I really got to realize what it's all about. They just want to patronize publicly the person that they think will get in, so they get some kind of favoritism going on. Well, enough of favoritism and everything. We're hurting, and this country's hurting. And I could go on for hours, so I'm going to stop right here. But, you know, we got to rethink how you vote for people. It's really about the person. That man down there at the end, running for sheriff, well, I can tell you that very few people come out and tell you the truth like that. And I really respect that man. And that's the kind of people you got to get behind. It's so hard to be a leader because everybody attacks you. When you find somebody that has the courage to get up and tell you like it is, get behind those people. Thank you very much.
We now are going to invite the representative for John Glenn Watkins.
Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. John wanted to be able to appear this evening, but being an attorney with a private practice while running for office, he has a trial at 7:30 in the morning and wanted to take care of his client, which I commend him for that. John is probably one of the most regarded criminal defense attorneys in town. Most people will probably remember him from the Jessica Williams trial about 14 years ago. Young lady that had trace amounts of marijuana in her system, fell asleep behind the wheel, and unfortunately wound up taking the lives of 6 people, which she will have to live with for the rest of her life. John did his best job trying to defend her and make sure she had a fair trial. John started out as a prosecutor in the Clark County District Attorney's Office under then District Attorney Bob Miller. He was in the criminal division and then got into his own private practice, which he has been running for 33 years. Some people know him as the DUI guy. However, he also has extensive knowledge of handling civil litigation as well. John is probably the most qualified candidate out of the 4 running for this seat due to the simple fact that he actually has 46 reported opinions in front of the Nevada Supreme Court, as well as presented cases in the U.S. Supreme Court. And for you, the voters and taxpayers, what does that translate to you and a judge? a man that knows what is admissible and isn't admissible by law, that will make decisions that will not get reversed and cut down on some of the costs of trying cases in this state, due to the fact that if you think about it, if a trial for a capital murder crime costs $1 million and then gets thrown up on appeals, that's more money the taxpayers have to pay in order for those requests to be met. John also is a former colonel in the Nevada National Guard Reserve. He has also done numerous hours of pro bono work on behalf of servicemen deployed to Desert Storm, also giving some time and attention to making sure servicemen's benefits are restored, and was also chairman of the support group for the Guard and Reserve. So I would adhere you to please give him a choice, elect him as a judge in Department 2, which is an open seat, and see what this man can do for us in the community. Thank you for your time.
And I'd like to now introduce the representative for Bobby G. Gronauer.
Good evening. My name is Dan Palazzo. I'm here representing Sheriff's candidate Robert Gronauer. Bobby G. had a prior engagement and plans on being here, but just a little bit late. I'm proud to be here to speak amongst fellow veterans. I'm a veteran of the Gulf War. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years and was able to serve my country in a combat environment, but was proud to do that. Bobby G. is also a Marine Corps Vietnam combat veteran who in 1967 joined the Marine Corps and was sent off to Vietnam and was awarded the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star with Combat V for valor and for his bravery while in Vietnam. When Bobby G. returned, he was selected to train officers at the Officer Candidate School in Quantico, Virginia, and would train leaders that and train men that would lead our troops for years to come. And Bobby's been doing that ever since. He is a leader. In the early 70s, Bobby G. Made his way from Baltimore to Las Vegas and joined the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. As a police officer, Bobby G. worked the meanest streets of Las Vegas and was selected as one of the top 10 cops in the United States for his innovative ideas in policing. In 1998, Bobby G. finished his 24-year career as a respected sergeant with the Metropolitan Police Department. After 24 years serving his community, when most people would call it a day, Bobby G. Was elected as the Las Vegas Constable. When Bobby G. walked into the position as Constable, the office, he was immediately inundated with an office that had no equipment, limited staff, and a history of an office that had fiscally run in the red since its inception and was subsidized by the county's general fund. After obtaining a small budget from the county, within 6 months, Bobby G. had that office running in the black and never asked for another dime from the county to run the office. During his 12 years as the Las Vegas Constable, Bobby G. created a new culture in the office and had not only gained the respect of local and state government officials, but gained the respect of law enforcement agencies throughout the state and nation. Bobby G. was awarded and recognized as Constable of the Year on 2 different occasions by the National Constables and Marshals Association. And in 2011, after 3 terms as the Las Vegas Constable, Bobby G. left an office that was well equipped with the most modern equipment and trained staff and almost $7 million in the bank. Once again, Bobby G. is excited that he has the opportunity to serve his community in a public capacity. As a Clark County Sheriff, Bobby G. will utilize the experiences gained through his professional careers to improve a law enforcement agency that he dearly cares about and has a 24-year personal connection with. So from one veteran to another, Robert Bobby G. Gronauer, is asking for your support and for your vote for Clark County Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, before we open up our floor for questions, sir, would you like to come up here and speak? Because we are recording, and it'd be easier, so come on, walk around. Please, thank you.
Well, my name is Daryl Hill from DCI Motors, and I'm here to talk to the veterans and give them information on the V2 project. And what that is an economic development plan to create jobs for veterans all across the country in all 50 states. We have been talking to the governors of our states, we've been talking to the senators of our states, and I even talked to, and well, not really talked to, but I've done correspondence to the First Lady Obama and Biden on creating jobs for veterans. And I've come up with an economic development plan, and we call that the V2. What the V2 is about is a disabled vehicle that creates transportation for disabled veterans with cooperations of the VA. We can get the veterans to where they need to go because, as you know, if you're a disabled person, the vans just not get enough people there for their appointments. And this is a problem at the Veterans Administration because they just don't have time to get to all the veterans and then have transportation to get them to the VA hospitals. So what I have come up with as an engineer is I came up with the V2. It's a transportation vehicle that is medical approved. It's a rolling triage, as I call it. It can power up medical equipment. It also carries your wheelchairs. It's DOT approved. And it gets 100 miles to a gallon. Now, when you're talking about the Veterans Administration and the President saying that we need to save money so we can service the veterans, then have them take a look at it. And like these gentlemen that were here that were saying about the VA, there's a lot of problems with the VA, but they need to find ways to cut budgets. That's why I created the V2 project, to cut the budget. If you look at some of the chairs that some of the veterans get, some of these chairs are subsidized for almost $20,000. The V2 is $7,000. So look where all the money that can be saved through the VA administration and go to other places that can help veterans in the other problems that they do have. So vets, I'm asking you to support me. I am not a candidate, but support me and let these governors and the senators and everybody here that runs your countries and runs your hospitals, let them know about the V2 project because it's going to benefit all. There's a lot of young men that are coming back through the wars that we're having, and I hate to say it, but the VA does not put out that information, but since I'm in this type of business, a lot of these young men are not going to be hired because they have wounds that are very, very difficult for a corporation to be able to go behind and hire them. But the V2 project is designed for that. We're going to create manufacturing jobs that manufacture these units for the disabled, and they are going to be the first ones to get hired in these manufacturing plants. We're doing this in all 50 states. I call it a small GM manufacturing economic development plan, and I know that we can get it done. But I need you as a help to let this be known to all the veterans. It's not known. I've been to the VA. I've talked to them about it. Some of the VA administration have hung up in my face, and I hate to say that, but they have, because it's all about money. So the bottom line is, I need you to help me so I can help you. My name is Daryl Hill.
We're going to do it one of two ways. If you have a specific candidate you'd like to have a question, you can say the candidate's name or maybe point if you can't remember, and I'm certain they'll remind you of their name. And then if the candidate can come up here to the microphone and answer that question. If you have a question for all candidates, then I would just suggest that the candidates perhaps raise your hand and we can have them come in order and give their answer to a question. So who's the first person? You're the first person, so sir, what is your question?
It's for all of you, but especially for you, what you said many years ago. I've got to talk to you later about the VA, about the medical stuff. Well, anyway. California, Florida, everywhere has the lottery. A few years ago, the lottery, doesn't that help the school board if you have the lottery here? Instead of all of us going to California or Arizona to get the lottery, which millions of us do, why don't we have lottery here? Because of the big casinos? I want you to answer, but all of you can come up with that. Because that's what, look at the school, look at the money that school will make if you had the lottery here.
You really need to come up with a new revenue source, and what I'm getting at is,
Yeah.
Go ahead, will you please go onto the microphone? Thank you.
it's kind of like playing musical chairs, what you're suggesting. I'll tell you what happened in California. They came up with a lottery to support education. Okay, that's a new source. We'll just take the money that we were using in education and spend it somewhere else, and that's what ended up happening. So we need to come, it all boils down to we need a strong job market. We need to bring quality jobs, jobs that people can afford to raise a family on. You know, when they talk about like raising the minimum wage, or working behind the counter at McDonald's, is that really a job that you're supposed to be making enough money to buy a home and raise a car? It robs people of their value, of their dignity. You know, people, we need that back in this country. Like, I'm a Democrat, but I love guns. Also, I'm Jewish, you know, I don't, you're not taking my guns away, I know what happens. But it's not the gun that hurts people. It's because people don't look at other human beings as having any value anymore. They don't have no dignity for the people. We need to take our country back.
Thanks.
You don't have to first and you'll be next, okay? So please come on up to the microphone.
I always take the opportunity to throw in my 2 cents. I would absolutely support a lottery for our state. And I don't know why we haven't done it. Maybe it's because certain entities that have control over all our money can't get their fingers into it. So anyway, besides that, you're also looking at a sheriff that since 2002, part of my platform is no gun registration whatsoever and under any conditions. And when I'm sheriff, that blue card that some of you probably have to have for your handguns will disappear. Okay, so anyway, I'd let you know I'm totally for the lottery, but again, the control of where that money goes is everything. And when we get into this, I'll share with you the $1 billion theft of Nevada taxpayer money in 2002 from then Attorney General Brian Sandoval and then Governor Gwynn. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yes, I wholeheartedly support a state lottery, but the problem that we have is the casinos. They don't want that dollar going to the state. They want that dollar into their machines, and that's the problem.
But why don't we put the machines in their casinos way in the back so we have to walk through the casino to get to play it, and then you stop.
Well, that's because they want your money. That's the bottom line. As far as the Second Amendment goes, I am full support of the Second Amendment. The only reason that I have not purchased a gun is because I don't want the government to know I have a gun. When you buy a gun, you have to register that gun. The government knows you have that gun. When they come to take your guns, and if we keep voting Democrat, that's going to happen. They're going to come take your guns. They're going to know exactly who's got the guns and who doesn't have the guns. I like the idea of not if it ever comes to the point where we don't have to register, then I will buy a gun. My dad had a gun. He was in the military for 33 years. I know how to shoot. I'm an Eagle Scout. I've had guns. I've shot guns. I'm not against guns. I love guns, but I don't want the government to know I have a gun. And that's why I didn't buy a gun, because the government's going to know I got a gun, and then they're going to come after me with their guns. You know, the minute they find out you got a gun in your house, they come with full gear like they're a SWAT team coming into your house just to ask you for a donation to the policeman's ball.
Thank you.
That was a joke. Yeah, but you still have to register it by law, you know. So I think we should get rid of that law. And if I could just digress for a moment, I want to tell you a little story about my dad. Okay, he spent 33 years in the U.S. Navy. He was a Mustang. He worked his way up from E1 all the way to chief in 9 years. They sent him to school, postgraduate school. Then he went to flight school, and then he went to jet school, and that's when I was born. I was born in Corpus Christi, Texas, which is where the jet school is. Well, my dad was up flying over the Gulf with his wingman. And what happened was his wingman's airplane was having some kind of a problem, so he had to punch out. So he punched out thinking it was going to just go into the Gulf, but it didn't. It actually turned itself around and started heading into Corpus Christi, where I was, where my mom was, where my brothers and sisters were. So my dad, I don't know if he did it for the good of all the entire city or just for us, but he got his wing underneath the other plane, and he drove that right into the Gulf. And he's the only person that got the Navy Cross while I was in flight school. So let's say I love my dad.
Would any other candidate like to answer the question? Would any other candidate like to answer the question? Okay, what's the next question? Who has the next question? Well, okay, sir?
My concern is, I'm a transplant in Las Vegas. I've lived here about 7 years. And I got a lot of friends back east in the Midwest that are asking me, what is this thing with this guy named Bundy in Bunkersville? Gordon, you mentioned him. Could you?
We'll have them start, and then any other candidates would like to.
If we get some clarification, because all I know about is what I've heard in the press and what I've read in the paper, and all I can think of is, this guy's a loony. Personal opinion. I don't know. But could you clarify for us?
We're going to have you start first, and then any other candidate.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so he's first.
Thank you, Lord. Okay. When that first started, the first thing I saw was the videotape of BLM officers tasing and beating up women and unarmed protesters that were exercising their First Amendment right. I called and talked with Cliven Bundy for an hour. I voiced my support for his situation. I didn't totally understand his grazing rights problem with the BLM. I guess it's been going on for decades. He owes them lots of money. But it is an administrative problem. It is administrative debt. Okay? He has not committed a crime. It's like you not making your payment on your washing machine. Are they going to send the appliance police after you with armed guns? No. Okay. So.
But his cattle was still on the BLM land.
Some of it was slaughtered.
Some of it was slaughtered.
Yes, it was. Okay, so here you have, and this is where I become rather emotional. The sheriff of your county is the highest law enforcement officer in the county. There is nobody above him. In that county, he is God when it comes to law enforcement. Now, he was told about this situation at the Bundy Ranch. And he'd already started preparing excuses so that he wouldn't have to get involved. Okay, so he knew about this problem. They want that land. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. They want that land for mineral rights. They want it for oil. They want it for solar plants. Somebody wants it, and Bundy's grazing rights are right in the middle of this thing. The desert tortoise, if you notice, isn't even mentioned anymore. I guess they forgot about that. The desert tortoise. Okay, they brought in the desert tortoise in an additional reason to move the Bundy cattle from these grazing lands. Okay, so it's amazing they don't even think about the desert tortoise when they set off 2,000 above ground nuclear bombs. I guess maybe they moved them all out before they did that. I don't know. All right, so the desert tortoise isn't even being mentioned anymore. So now we have a fully armed BLM federal agents that go against legal protesters. Okay, now these protesters are not armed. There's a lot of finger pointing, there's a lot of yelling, there's a lot of profanity. I studied those videotapes. I talked to people. That's my business. I wanted to get down to the nitty-gritty here. I tell you, my skin was crawling when I saw what happened. 2 females, one of them being pregnant, was tased and stomped on, and 8 to 10 other people were tasered and left to do the chicken on the ground. Now, they didn't arrest them. Understand this. They did not arrest them for whatever crime they committed. There was no aggressive action, and they just left them. Now, let me tell you, in the law enforcement business, I have a little bit of experience. And experience, in my definition, is knowing a lot of things you shouldn't do. And that's one of them, okay? You put your hands, a police officer puts your hands on somebody, they go to jail because they've committed a crime. These people didn't go to jail because they didn't commit any crime. They just got tasered and beat up because the BLM wanted to do this. They wanted to force their way into and take Bundy's cattle. They wanted to take Bundy's cattle, and they took about 400 head out of a 950 some odd head herd of cattle, okay? So they take them and they transported some of them to auction to start auctioning them off. They also killed 2 of his bulls and buried them and tried to cover up the crime. So after this little incident where the militia came in, the Oath Keepers came in, the protesters came in, and they saw that they were armed and they were serious about this. It wasn't about grazing rights. It wasn't about property rights or land grab. This was about a constitutional violation against those people that were legally protesting. They were protesting, which is covered by the First Amendment. They had the right to do this, and they had excessive force used against them. That's why they were there. Now, of course, the federal government, they're pretty smart in demonizing people, so now they made him out to look like some kind of racist, or they made him look out to be like an idiot. This is just a regular guy. I've talked with him on the phone a couple of times, one time for at least an hour, and I've tried to advise him what he needs to do and not to trust anybody, because the government loves to infiltrate like the militia or the Oath Keepers or whatever. They come in there and they cause dissension, and I'm sure, I pray to God no hothead goes in there and caps off a round, because that will be another Waco. Now, what could have avoided this? It's a sheriff that's a constitutional sheriff, and we ain't got him. This guy's bought and paid for. He's been that way for a number of years. Okay, I know him personally. Fact is, he had me shot one night. Okay, back in 2006, I lost the primary. And I backed Jerry Arola, who was running against Gillespie, okay? Well, Jerry Arola hired a private investigator to dig up all kinds of dirt on Gillespie. That private investigator told me. Now, along with his dirt and the dirt that I also had on Gillespie, I called up Gillespie and says, hey, we need a chat. He says, what about? I said, the campaign, of course. So I met him outside the city hall, and I said, just take a walk with me. I showed him that I wasn't wired, didn't have a tape recorder. I said, the fact is, I don't even want you to speak. I just want you to listen. This is the stuff that's going to come out. And one of the things, you'll love this, he loved to use the N-word. Him and Sheriff Young, they used to love to use that N-word. Okay, now you may have noticed that I'm also Mexican, okay? I'm a little sensitive about that kind of stuff and name calling and labeling people. Okay, as we walked, I told him all the things that were coming out. He says, well, what do you want me to do? And I says, just step down. This place has enough crooks in it that are in local government. We don't need another one like you. Well, anyway, he took that, I guess he didn't have quite a sense of humor as I did. So 2 days later, I'm riding my motorcycle home, 3 doors away from my front door, somebody shoots me in the left thigh from a parked vehicle. It takes off, and believe it or not, that really hurts, right in the left thigh. Now, this is from my co-workers. This is from my co-workers. So, I called an ambulance, I called the police, they come on in there, I took my own report, and then they sent a detective out to investigate it. Of course, it's still unsolved. So you'll see my name all over it, and now, of course, I couldn't point the finger at him. I don't have any evidence. But it sure is kind of coincidental. Now, on the Bundy thing, did I adequately explain to you what the Bundy situation is?
Well, that's kind of after the fact. What started in the first place? What I understand is that...
I have all that information all ready to go, as soon as he's finished.
Okay. Oh, you were talking about the grazing rights and the property rights and all
Yeah, I
that?
mean,
Okay.
why it got started in the first
If
place.
somebody has more information on that part, I'm not involved in that part. I am involved with what happened to those protesters, and that was a constitutional violation, and the sheriff should have stood in there and told those agents, you either back off and cease and desist, and if you don't, then I'll consider it criminal activity and I will arrest you. That's what he should have done.
So what right do those demonstrators have against the BLM?
What do they have against them?
Yeah, what rights do they have? Can they sue them?
Of course, it's a First Amendment violation.
Yeah.
And excessive force and retaliation.
Okay.
First of all, let me just say, back in 1997, Ron Paul said that we should not be arming these administrative things like the BLM and the IRS. Nobody listened to him because they thought he was a weirdo. Turns out he's right about everything he said. We shouldn't have had a police force with the BLM. We shouldn't have a police force with the IRS, okay? And we shouldn't have agencies going into private businesses like they're the DEA going into a drug den with full bore and full arms to get paperwork from a business. I mean, come on, this is what we come down to. Okay, so we got that out of the way. Now, what happened was, okay, the Bundys have been there for well over 100 years, okay? It was just recently, about 20 years ago, that the BLM decided to tell them how to do their job, what to do, blah, 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 do this, you can't do that, you can't do the other thing. And Mr. Bundy just said, you know what? You don't have any right to tell me how to handle my business here. And you know what? I don't even recognize you, because the problem is we've got over 90% of the land in Nevada is government owned. See, we were originally created back to help get rid of the slave situation, okay, when we were battle born back, if you know the history of Nevada, which most of you do, I'm sure, because you've lived here so long. Well, anyway, he basically got the idea, I've got the federal government telling me what to do with my land management. And I was here before the BLM was ever even created, and I don't like the fact that this land is owned by the federal government when it's in Nevada borders. Nevada should own its own land. That is where it all came down to, okay? Now the BLM, number one, he doesn't owe $1 million. He owes probably a couple $100,000, okay? But they inflated that to make him look bad, okay? Number one. Then they come out with their army, with their snipers. Because he is a drug lord? No. Because he's a terrorist? No. Oh, because he owes them a little bit of money. Well, then let's blow him away. No, you don't kill people because they owe you money, okay? So number one, they shouldn't have come out there with the arms, because Ron Paul told us that was going to happen, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, Ron Paul was probably one of the smartest congressmen we've ever had, because everything he said came true. Now, we got a situation where all these government people are coming in with their snipers and their guns, and they're being bullies, and they're tasing people and stuff like that, okay? So people are like, hey, wait a minute. You guys work for us. We're the people. We don't want you tasing them. We're going to go out there. We're going to demonstrate. So what they do? This little area over here, about 500 yards away, that's the free speech zone. I got news for you. The free speech zone is from sea to shining sea. You can't just say, oh, that little corner over there is free speech, and nobody else is allowed to do free speech. Right now, our free speech and our First and Second Amendments are under attack from the Democrats. And we have to fight to keep those two things. So basically, he was upset that the federal government owns so much land in Nevada. And that was what he made it to be. And that's why there was a conflict between the BLM and him. The protesters were out there protesting government overreach. The BLM beat them up. And that's when everybody started taking notice that this little old lady, this poor lady here, and this poor young man are being tasered and beaten up by the BLM with guns. So here comes the militia. Now the BLM is looking at the militia going, wait a minute, Those guys are ex-military. Those guys are ex-police officers. These guys are retired police officers, retired SWAT people. These are not your domestic terrorists like Harry Reid's calling them. These are decorated police officers, decorated military personnel, decorated snipers that are now getting up there to protect liberty. That's what it was all about, protecting liberty. And our liberties are trying to be taken away by President Obama every single day. And we won't stand for it. And that's basically what the argument was. This is Nevada's land. This is not the military. This is not the government's land. That is what it came down to. Now, there was a time when he was just talking, and they took a little snippet of what he said. And basically what he was saying is, sometimes he feels like blacks were better off when they were on a plantation and taken care of than under the welfare that the government is putting them under control of. That's all he said. And now all of a sudden he's a racist. Then Pelosi goes out there, says racist remarks, you don't hear anything. Every time a Democrat says something racist, you won't hear a peep. But by golly, if they think they're a Republican, it's going all over the place. That's why they thought the Clippers owner was a Republican. That's why they made a big deal about it, but it turns out he's a Democrat. Because Democrats are the racist party. That's all. Any other questions? Is that cleared up for you?
As I said, I'm nonpartisan. It's kind of funny that the Republican side seems to feel that those guys are in their rights and BLM is wrong, and the Democrats think that the reverse, of course. I look at it this way. Like I said, I've been in politics a long time, and I get those kind of people even come to our meetings. The first mistake was Governor Sandoval, without a shadow of a doubt, knew well in advance what was going to go happen. And he didn't want to get involved. And that was a big mistake. He doesn't deserve to be governor. And so what happens is our state gets embarrassed once again. Thank God nobody got shot out there, because in a mob situation, people lose control real easy, and it would have been a disaster out there. You know, it's incredible to me that people don't understand how our government works. I think it's 87% of the state of Nevada is owned by government. A few percent or whatever by the state, and the rest of it by the federal government. How can that change? It's by getting the right people elected to office. I'm a Democrat, but I don't like Harry Reid. Harry Reid is a self-serving individual and has done nothing for our state. And he needs to go. And a lot of people need to go. The face has changed, but who's controlling him is still the same. We got to educate people. We're all in this together. You call yourself Republican, Democrat, whatever. But we all want the same things. We want quality of life. We want to be able to have a good education. And speaking of that, what would the lottery be? Just another tax on you. How are you going to win that lottery? It's just another tax on you that you volunteer to pay to get what you should get anyway. You know, you got to rethink what's going on here. Our country is going down, and it's because of apathy. You know, we live in the information age, but most people spend their time on the computer looking at Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff. Come on, the information's there. It's so easy to find. It's pathetic. One of my fun ones is Social Security's not doing too good. Well, look up the U.S. Treasury report. It must have been doing sort of okay, right? Because the federal government borrowed $7 trillion from it. Now you know why you don't get your cost of living raised. You know, open your mind. Stop listening to people. Do your own homework. Thank you.
I see our candidate has come in. Would you like to speak?
Hell yeah.
Oh, well, please. So we're going to interrupt, and we had a question out there, and we will allow other candidates to answer, but I would like to introduce Bobby G. Gronauer.
Being a combat Marine, I guess I'm not too shy. We'll see what happens. I'm a Vietnam vet, 67, 68. I'm a 40-year resident. I'll start with this. I'm a 40-year resident of Nevada, and I'm very proud to be here. I was 24 years with the Metropolitan Police Department, 12 years as a Las Vegas Township Constable. Prior to that, I had 5 years in the Baltimore City Police Department. Prior to that, it was Marine Corps, Vietnam. I was with 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines, sister battalion 1-9, which was called the Walking Dead. And believe me, they were. That was a tough outfit to follow and stick around with them. I received a Purple Heart for wounds received and a Bronze Star with a V for valor. In the Marine Corps, that's pretty tough to get sometimes, okay? But the idea is, I don't tell you about my medals because I'm a hero. And I think the gentlemen and ladies in this room that understand the military, the heroes that for my generation are on the wall in Washington, D.C. I was able to live a life, raise a family, find love, find hate, find the whole, and have a career and live a life. We were 19-year-old kids like they are today even, you know. We were young kids when we were in war. I was a combat squad leader. I went to Vietnam as a private. I left Vietnam 14 months later as a Sergeant E5. They're called blood stripes. But I understand leadership. I understand having problems. I understand what things really mean. My idea is running for sheriff is very simple. Service, protection, and accountability. When I say service, I mean, my idea about service is when you call a cop, you get a cop. That's the way it should be. Whether that's for your house being burglarized, or some other felony, or else you have a misdemeanor car accident. You should have a cop on all those things. I know there's a way to make that happen. I can give you all that stuff, and I don't know how much time I have because I'll bore you to death. I'll keep talking. The idea is, I've been married 38 years here. I have 9 grandchildren in this county. Do I give a damn? I give a damn. I care about what's happening in this county all the time. When I say talk about protection, I mean really protection. I mean, we should be able to protect our rights, our Constitution, which we all fought for. There are many people in here I know have fought for it, all right, and understand what it means and believe in it. Believe in it the way it's written, not believing in what we want to make out of it. It has to be what the law is the law. When I say accountability, Metropolitan Police Department right now has a $750 million a year budget. That's $750 million a year. Now, obviously, Clark County is huge. It's about the same size in area as the state of New Jersey. So it's a huge county. And they have a lot of diverse types of policing here, from the mountains in Mount Charleston to deserts out in Bunkerville, Mesquite. Well, we don't do Mesquite, but out in Sandy Valley. And we also have resident officers in Laughlin. When you have to look at what it is, but $750 million of our tax money should be accountable. And that doesn't seem to be happening at this point. I have nothing against Doug Gillespie. I was his first training officer. I'm the first cop he ever rode with. There's another guy in this race, which I don't see him here. I was his third training officer. So I understand the administration. I've been through the administration. I'm one of the guys that I don't go along to get along. So I was told when I was a very senior sergeant, you don't even have to test for lieutenant because you're never going to make it. Do I get that? I get it. I left the police department very happily. I had a very good career. I will not stand here and tell you I didn't. It was a very good career. But our policing, when we were policing, were a little bit more service oriented. And one of the things I did, I had a sign out there which was much bigger than this, okay? But it says, "What can Metro do better? Call or text this number." We put this sign out there on A-frames in October. We received almost 700 calls on this. Almost every political consultant and every pundit said don't do it because you're going to get every a-hole, excuse me ladies, but you're going to get every a-hole in the world to call you. Well, guess what? Almost 700 calls. 4 were what you might call jerky calls. The rest were, this county, these people in this county give a damn. They really do. But when they talk about, what I found out, I put my fingers on the pulse of what's happening in this police department. Metro Police are elitist. Metro Police don't stop when we're stuck on a road with a flat tire. Metro Police don't respond to accidents. Metro Police don't even call you back when you become a victim. That's really the time. I can tell you stories, but I don't want to take everybody's time because I'm late, and I'm sorry for not apologizing for that. We had a meet and greet up in Tivoli Village that was set 2 months ago. And we got this call on the 28th, and I did call. Yes. I did call and asked if I could send somebody at least to be here, and I will get here as soon as I can. So please excuse me for that. I'm not even fashionably late. I'm just late. So that's the way it is. But again, when we put this out there, people said, why do we have 6 Metro police officers with an 18 or 19-year-old girl with her hands cuffed and they're surrounding her at a car stop? You know, I mean, sometimes there might be a reason for that, but that doesn't sound like a good reason to have 6 cops there once she's handcuffed. That's a waste of resources and everything else. There's a way we can do our accidents and without even increasing our budget, hardly anything. And I can give you all that. Whatever you want to ask me, I'm going to be available for you to ask me. I'll answer any question about anything you want to talk about. One thing about it, if you know anything about me, I was elected constable for 12 years. If you call, I haul. If you call, I will listen to anything you have to say. I always have an open ear. People say I have an open door policy. I have an open ear policy. Like I said, I understand what it means to be stuck and ask people for help. I brought up in an orphanage, and I get what it means to ask people for help. I got adopted when I was quite older in life, and I'll always be grateful for the people who at least gave me a chance in life. But the third day out of high school, I got my first piece of mail. Guess what that was? Some of you might have got that mail. Draft notice, you better believe it. And I have a real serial number. I don't have just my social security number. So, and I'm lucky because of my age and the things I've been through, I don't take a pill for anything, which to me is absolutely wonderful. Married 38 years, I guess she stays with me because she figures I'm not a liability. So I don't know what else you want us to hear about, if you want to hear anything.
Well, what I'll do is we had a question, and would you like to address the question of Bunkerville, in your opinion, if you'd like? If not, you don't have to.
Absolutely, I have no problem, okay? Thing in Bunkerville, now we can talk about the Constitution, we can flower this any way you want. I'm just going to tell you what I feel about it, okay? I got the call yesterday, I was at an event yesterday, and a gentleman walked up to me, and he's in the assembly, actually, and he asked me, he said, how would you have handled that differently than the sheriff? And to be quite frank, I don't think any one of us know what the sheriff did or didn't do up there. Okay, we have no idea. We weren't told. We weren't in part of that. So my idea was very simple. Listen, this whole thing was started out as a civil matter. No matter how you look at it, civil, not criminal. All right? If you and I, anyone in this room doesn't pay our taxes, what do you think happens to us? Do they come after us and arm guns and stuff? What they do, they lean every damn thing we own. Excuse my language, I'm sorry, I was just a street kid. But they lean everything we own. And there's a way to do all this. The sheriff in Nye County, you know, he stood his ground with it, and he said to BLM, you're not coming in, you're not going to do this. And they said, well, we'll bring our SWAT team. He said, well, I'll bring my SWAT team. But he did a smart thing. Tony DeMaio in Nye County. He went ahead, and what he did, he went to the courts in Nevada, district court, and he got a friendly court, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. But the courts put an injunction on the BLM and said, you can't come in here. You're not going to do it. And that's better than putting guns to guns. I mean, this is America, damn it. I mean, that's just bad. What I would have did different, I would never let it get out of hand like it did. I don't know where Gillespie was. I don't know if he was in the back of everything. I don't know anything about it. So I can't knock what he did or didn't do. I'll just tell you what Bobby G would do. All right? My whole idea, what I would do is very simple. It is a civil matter. All right? BLM, before you come on my state, you should be talking to me first. I am the sheriff of Clark County. Now, the DA wants to say they're the top law enforcement officer of the county. I heard the Attorney General today say they're the top law enforcement officer in the state. The sheriff is the top law enforcement officer in the county. He's charged with, he or she is charged with all the laws. Now, I don't make laws, I enforce laws. That's the name of the game. I don't get to pick and choose which laws they are. And I'll get to the Bundy thing real quick, but I was brought up in a Catholic orphanage. So obviously abortion, I'm just giving you an example. Obviously abortion is against whatever you believe if you're a Catholic, okay? When we went out with Roe versus Wade on the street, and I was a squad leader, we go out in the streets to protect the abortion clinics. Why? Because Roe versus Wade is part of the Constitution now. That's what it is, whether we like it or not. So you had to defend the law. Same thing with in Bunkerville. We should never got where we had an armed assault on our land. There was rumors there was 200 people up there for the BLM. There was 150 that they admit to. And there was probably another 50, the cowboys, who rounded up the cattle. So that might have made it 200. Oh, you have to look at it that way. It should never have been there. When I was a squad leader here in the streets of Las Vegas, if I was responsible for everything south of Charleston, everything west of I-15. If you're in a narcotics unit or one of these fancy dancy units that have the FBI, ATF, and Metro all together, you come in my territory that I'm responsible for, you got to tell me what you're doing there. Same thing with the BLM. Tell me what you're doing. Because if all hell breaks loose, I don't want to put all my people in a bad spot. I don't want to put my citizens in a bad spot. But it was a real bad situation. Then when the militia came, it's even worse. Now we got guns against guns and all this other BS, and militias blaming the BLM for being up on high ground with snipers, and BLM's blaming the militia for being on high ground with snipers. We should have never been in that situation. This should have been very simply done, even when the BLM first came. You want to serve civil warrants on somebody, you do it through me. You don't go touching anybody else. That's the way it is. This is America. This is Clark County. I am the sheriff. That's the way it's going to be. I've spoken in this room several times. I've been a member of Post 8 for about 36 years now of the American Legion. So I spoke in here before when Mr. Adderley was the commander. I just want to let you know that if you know me, you know I'm going to tell you what I believe and what I think. I'm going to tell you sometimes things you want to hear, and I'm going to tell you sometimes things you don't want to hear, because I'm going to give you everything straight. We're not always going to agree on everything. The Bundy thing was a mess. Just garbage. Should never happen. We become the laughing stock of this country, if not the world. And that should never happen like that. The Department of Interior overstepped their bounds. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Mr. Bundy should have paid his stuff. He shouldn't have warrants. Get the warrants. He should have paid. Simple solution for Mr. Bundy was, I don't believe in America. I don't go with him on that, all right? But he said, I don't believe that America has any right of anything. I don't go with him on that saying, but the idea with Bundy, he said he'd pay his money. He just don't want to pay it to the BLM. So why can't you be a negotiator? He wants to pay the state of Nevada. So you say, okay, sit state of Nevada down, sit BLM down, sit Mr. Bundy down, sit myself down, and say, here's what we are. You're at $2 million, pay the $2 million to the state of Nevada. And let him pay it. Okay. And after he paid it, whatever the state of Nevada does with that money is not my business. All right? Let it go. Hey, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you so much time, but I appreciate it.
I see a candidate has come. Sir, will you please come up and join the other candidates? Thank you so much for coming. We're not trying to embarrass you. We want to give you an opportunity. If you'd like to step around here. And if you would please introduce yourself, the office you're running for, and make a statement. Welcome. Yes, sir.
Sorry for running a little late. I had 2 other events to do today, but my name is Chris Hypock. I'm a husband, a father, and I'm a Democrat, and I live here in Nevada. Running to be your governor for Nevada. I've been campaigning 8 months. I started deciding to do this 3 years ago. I simply got involved because I feel we deserve better than what we've been handed over the years. Look at our statistics. Top of every bad category, bottom of every good category. It didn't happen overnight. This is just years of bad management from our top. I feel like it's time to put politics aside, do exactly what we get elected to do, and I had a 0% chance 8 months ago, and today I'm the front runner by 12% under the Democrat ticket, just because of my perseverance. I traveled the state 4 times, and I plan on doing 1 more before the primary election. I'm dedicated. I just want to put the people first. I want to fix the veteran benefit backlog that we have that was supposed to be fixed last session. It still hasn't been even cut in half yet. I feel like we haven't invested in early childhood education enough. I don't think we have a marketable government to bring businesses here. We're D- in integrity state. We're D in spending transparency. We're not fiscally responsible. We barely balance the budget every session, and we don't manage tax dollars fairly. Who here as a business would want to bring your multi-billion-dollar business here when our government's been inconsistent? I think it's time to put politics aside. I'm Chris Hypock, and I'm your candidate for governor of Nevada. Thank you so much. God bless you.
I would like you to come on up and state about your position on Bunker Bill. Thank you.
I think there's been a lot been said about that situation, just some of the facts that I know. personal facts, actually, I don't think anybody should die over a head of cattle. That's number one. Number two, we are a nation of laws. From what I do know, that there are other ranchers who are paying fees, and I think he should be paying fees, but I don't think the BLM should have come in the way that they did, done some of the things they should have done. I think to clarify the history is what I think you were asking a little bit, not what happened afterwards. There's a lot of confusion. The history is in 1864 when Nevada became a state, under the Enabling Act, the actual act, the provisions to make Nevada a state. There was two aspects to the Enabling Act. One was that a certain amount, now about 85% or 90% of land would remain federal land. That was part of Nevada becoming a state. Part of it, and it's in our Constitution as well, that we would agree to those that part of the enabling provision. The other part of the enabling provision is that Nevada would ban slavery because we were joining forces with the North. We were going to support President Lincoln in his re-election, and that's part of why they wanted to get Nevada a state, become a state so quickly. I think a bigger issue, to step away from the microcosm, the bigger issue going forward for the state of Nevada will be this. The fact is, will Nevada control this 85%, or will they begin to control a larger portion of that? That will be something that we will have to push. I don't believe we have any federal candidates or legislators here to talk to our congressmen, our senators, in order to push that piece of legislation. I think that's going to be critical. That's going to be a large part moving forward of, I think, Nevada's issues federally. It will be. Because if we're talking about diversifying the economy, in order to bring businesses here, having that land will allow us to have more funds in the general fund, allow us to collect taxes, and allow us to grow our economy. Those are just some of my thoughts, and I know there's a lot of sentiment and emotion, but those are the facts as we have them. I do believe people should obey the law. The BLM should not have come in as heavy-handed, but at the end of the day, this is a federal issue that should be changed by our federal legislators. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. This pretty much stems to why the whole country and the state has came to, and that's not to put the people first. It's sad when the federal government owns 85% of our land here in Nevada. When you look at Utah, California, Washington, all of them have been able to free up the majority of their land in the same situation as us. But we have all these mineral rights in the state that the government wants to keep a hands on. But sooner or later, it is our state. We're underfunded in every single way that's possible, and we can't do it because we're living off 15% of our land. We can't expand, we can't bring more money to the state, but at the same time, the state of Nevada, you got to protect the people of your state. I don't care who's right or wrong at this point, you got to protect Bundy at this situation, at this time. Yes, he does owe some fees. Yes, he should pay them or find out some type of agreement upon this situation. But the governor, like everything else, has been hidden from the issue. He made a statement behind the desk, but he should have been there with his people. He should have not allowed it to escalate as big as it has. I don't agree the BLM should have came in like he mentioned, like they did. I don't believe in tasering and hitting people with cars was the right answer either. But I also respect the people that came to protect the American people. I mean, people's getting tired of paying more taxes without seeing some investment in their return, any return in their investment. And I feel like it's what the world's coming to. People want to stand up and they don't know how, but it just shows you that the government has lost focus on taking care of the people first. And I feel like the governor should have been in and made a statement right away, been down there to be the voice of this state, and it would have been dissolved a long time ago. Thank you.
My name is David Hamlin. My question is in regards of employment and education. I am a wind turbine technician. I just accomplished that 2 years ago. I'm 57 years old. And my point is Kingman, Arizona was staged to build 296 wind turbines. The state currently is funding all kinds of solar projects. The sun goes down, solar farms don't work. Now, if you spent as much time as I did outside or in the last month, all right, you'll notice that I have a dark suntan. I'm working at $8.25 an hour where I used to make $60 an hour building elevators. The last building I worked in was Fontainebleau. And we know what kind of mistake that was. All right? My point is, and the question I'd like to hear, when a person goes back to re-educate themselves, why is it that they are told now you are overqualified and I am struggling getting employment for $8.25 an hour? Thank you.
Who on this side would like to answer that question? Okay, I can have you first.
Thank you for that question. First of all, I strongly feel that American worker should be making a decent middle-class minimum wage in this state, not only the state but nationwide. I feel that back in June, Nevada was offered $1 billion in job training, job research, and job placement. And all of our colleges denied the $1 billion. 2 months later comes August, Ryan Sandoval and Harry both got together with the Energy Summit back in Mandalay Bay, talked about how the Paiute Indian Reservation is going to help with solar plants. Aren't those jobs that we could have been training for that they've denied us for? That's what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. They're playing politics instead of playing the game of taking care of the people first. We need to have jobs. We do need to have better education. There should never be you're overqualified. You're an American worker, you should be able to get a job. Regardless, you're taking that choice to making that pay cut from $60 to what it should be at least dollars an hour. It is time to take care of the people, and I feel that we need to have the education for people. But again, it starts with early childhood education as well to build our children up to want to have better out there. Because right now, 70% of kids don't go to preschool. Kindergarten is not mandatory. They don't evaluate our kids till 3rd grade, 4th grade. 70% of our kids are not reading proficiently. They don't start. What's going on here? We're #1 dropout rate in the nation. It doesn't happen in high school, it's happening in middle school. By the time they hit middle school, they lose their interest, they lose their confidence. And I think it's time to put more enforcement in early childhood education. But with your question with colleges, I think you should start really combining it with high school. We should be looking at 14 years of school, not just 12. That way when they graduate, they're college ready and they can make a bigger impact in the state. Thank you.
And we'll look at this side. Who would like to respond, please?
David, I'll be real quick. I think in regards to what you're talking about, we talk K through 12, you have university. In regards to what you're talking about, my platform is this, and I believe the legislature should adopt this platform. We do have to diversify our economy. You heard that statement, right? Diversify our economy. So I think that takes planning. You don't just diversify your economy overnight. Number one, we need to have a tax structure that is favorable to businesses to come to Nevada. That is our strength as a state, is our tax structure and our tax climate. So we need to maintain that, and you'll be able to work your way up in a new career and be able to get paid more down the road. That's my idea.
Now, the biggest problem we have in job creation in this state is the government. The government does things that does not want, the businessmen don't want to come here. They'll go to Arizona, they'll go to New Mexico, they'll go to Utah, but they don't want to come to Nevada. Because guess what? Nevada is not a business-friendly state. 2 businesses that I know of for a fact. One of them from Bullhead City, a contractor, and another one from Barstow, California, a contractor. Okay, they've got successful businesses in their states. They want to grow. They want to come to Las Vegas. They want to do home improvements and things of that nature. They want to be able to hire employees. They want to be able to create sales tax. They want to be able to hire other contractors to do the work. Okay, but here's the thing: they got their business at home, so they come out here for a few days. They hire some salespeople and stuff like that, and they find out some contractors and things. But they got to get home because they're a business at home, so they go home. Okay. Now the next time they come out here and they're busy trying to hire some people, somebody, because the way the Democrats have got things going, calls up and says, "I see a California tag." Now the constable by law has to come and cite that guy and tell him to have a Nevada plate because he's generating income in the state of Nevada. Well, he lives in California, or the other guy lived in Arizona. They go down to the DMV and they say, well, I just got a gun pointed at my head by the constable's office telling me that I've got to register my car here. And then they say, okay, what's your address? They give them the addresses. They say, you can't register your car here. You don't live here. I know I don't live here. I live in California, or I live in Arizona. I'm trying to create a business out here. The constables say, too bad. I got a gun to your head. Do it. DMV saying, we can't do it. You know what they say? Forget Nevada. I'm going to Arizona, or I'm going to Utah, or I'm going somewhere else. That one law that the Democrats, it's the old crying game. Well, I had to pay high Nevada fees. This guy, well, I got news for you. California is higher than Nevada. So these Californians that have California plates here are not trying to avoid the fees. It's because they're doing business here and they live there, okay? But it's like, because I don't get it, you don't get it, you know? We got to get rid of that law. So anybody that's running, make sure you get rid of that law.
Okay.
It's not a secret nationally, Nevada is known as being a very unfriendly business state. Nationally, it's known that Nevada needs to diversify its economy, but it doesn't because what I told you, mining and gaming buys most of the politicians that get elected at the legislature and state level, like the lieutenant governor and governor. And they don't want competition for their employees. That's one of my personal decisions of why they're so anti-business. Now, how many people, take the miners in Elko. The mines are in Eureka County, not Elko. And so these people get on a bus and spend a tremendous amount of time going back and forth to work. And poor Elko's got a lot of domestic abuse, drug and alcohol abuse problems that they can't deal with because Eureka County, with less than 1,000 people, has over $90 million in the bank for the mining taxes. And Elko gets nothing. Nevada budget is run short every year, so we cut. You know, I'm a business person. I'm a contractor. And in business, you invest money in your business. And it helps it grow, but Nevada doesn't do that. Nevada has a very good, what people refer to as a rainy day fund. If you look at Nevada's confidential annual financial report, you'll find out that Nevada has a lot of money. And unfortunately, it did lose some a couple of years ago or a few years back with the previous treasurer made some bad investments. But Nevada needs to invest in itself. One of my ideas, we hear about the bullet train. Can you imagine if that bullet train actually was in existence and went from Vegas to Anaheim, how much money it would bring into southern Nevada, how many jobs it would bring, what would happen? So as lieutenant governor, that's one of my goals if I get elected. I'm running over to California, want to make a deal with them. They keep the ticket money and we keep the wallet money. Have a good
Two more candidates. I know you would like to respond. Did you want to respond as well?
Sure.
Okay, who wants to go? I'll have him go first. And you can have the last word. How's that sound? All right.
I wanted to address something that Bobby said, that he trained Gillespie and another sheriff candidate. He won't say the name. So, Bobby, do I have you to thank for that Gillespie is the sheriff?
You took it out of context. I said he was his first training officer. Come on, Gordon. You're my buddy.
Yeah. So, why is it that you can't get a decent job? You're from Arizona? Right? Okay. It's because Las Vegas and the state of Nevada is based on gambling, prostitution, and gambling, or gambling, prostitution, and alcohol. Okay? That's the way it is. And every imaginable victim has told me basically what you're saying. Okay? How can anybody make a living here? Well, they've got to sell their soul first. Okay? So that's the reason. And as sheriff, I'm going to correct that because nobody owns me. Nobody owes me anything. I don't owe anybody anything. I can correct it. Thanks.
Thanks, Gordon. I'm going to just set the record straight. When it came down to the fair share law, which was what Mr. Rose was commenting about, was license plates. I was the constable in office. I'm the one who went to Carson City, and I actually got the law on. Okay. I don't like paying $600 for my license plates or $300 for my license plates if somebody from Ohio pays $22 and they live next door to me.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what, this came about because of people's complaints in our county saying, and it actually came from places like Summerlin. So they're tired of golfing with their next door neighbor, and the next door neighbor says, oh, I just got my plates for $18. And this person just paid $400 for the plates. And it really did happen that way. When I went to the Carson City with it, because I was asked by the county, I was asked by a couple other people, so we went to Carson City to change that law to make it fair share. There's a lot of exemptions to that law, okay? If you're a student, if you're in the military, snowbirds, there's a whole lot of things. And during my reign as the constable for 12 years, that law was only in effect for 3 years, my thing. We never put somebody's gun to their head to make them get their license plates done. I'm just saying, the law was called fair share just for that reason. So we pay the same amount. I'm going to just, 1 second, I'm going to take on his job.
Okay.
Okay, on your job thing, because I'm in agreement with everybody up here on the jobs. One of the things we do, now I've been here 40 years, one thing we do here, and why our education even isn't a little bit of a problem, because why would a kid want to graduate high school when at 18, 16 years old, and they can get a job valet parking for $70,000 a year? I believe, and I believe Chris would, I never talked to Chris about this, but I've talked to him several times, and I believe everybody in this panel might think this. Make the casinos say, we can't hire you unless you have a high school diploma. If you do that, that'll make fair share for everybody in that. I believe it's a simple, everything's simple remedies. That doesn't mean they're easy, but there are simple remedies to them.
Thank you. Come on up. Let us know what office you're running for and give us your statement.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry I'm late. I had something else I had to rush to and rush back from. And today happens to be my daughter's birthday, too. So I've been a little busy. But my name is Dr. Annette Tejero, and I am running for Congressional District 1. Those of you that don't know where that is, that's actually all the way on the west side is Durango. All the way on the east side is Hollywood. On the southern border, it's Russell. And on the northern border, it's partially Lake Mead and partially Vegas Drive, with that little wedge of what is the 95 and the 15 cut out of it. And that goes into another district. But just so that you know, I have lived here for about 38 years. My family's been here. I grew up here. I went to school here, junior high, high school, UNLV. And I also went to medical school in the state. I came back after my anesthesia residency and have been a practicing physician for over 20 years. I've also had 10 years of interfacing with healthcare policy with our state legislature. And this had to do with anything that impacts healthcare and reviewing that. So this is just another step, because once they decided to make the Affordable Care Act, which may not be as affordable as we'd like, it became an issue, and I have to go on the congressional level to help patients, because that's what I've been doing for years. So there are a lot of things that I could tell you about myself, and I am sure willing to answer any questions that you might have. But overall, I have been very blessed. My life has not been easy. I grew up very poor. I grew up here, and I had to work to put myself through a private high school. And I worked during my whole time at UNLV. I paid my way through undergrad. And then I did something that was not really thought that people could do. The Dean of Student Affairs was upset with me because I told him that I would work while I was in medical school. And he said, young lady, we don't do that here. We take out loans. And I said, sir, I'm going to be working. And I did. I always believe that you can do things. You can pay for things without having to take out a lot of debt. Needless to say, I did start paying my debt back. And it is one of my passions that people be able to have families and provide for their families. It's so important for us here today. It brings tears to my eyes to think of how many people can't give their families everything that they need. We need jobs, ladies and gentlemen. We need Congress to wake up and realize that we don't want them micromanaging our lives. We don't want them taxing us to death. We want them to help us. To help us by providing and nurturing environment and giving us the tools that you need to have to be able to succeed. And I don't expect them to hold our hand the whole way, but I also don't expect them to get in the way. This healthcare law gets in the way. Our economy gets in the way. People don't have jobs. They don't have freedom. And now they might even have 2 part-time jobs to pay for some outrageous premiums and no choices. Sadly enough, for our veterans and our military personnel, we've broken many promises. And the person that sits in this seat right now has not done a whole heck of a lot to make sure that our veterans get that promise that we made to them fulfilled. The person that sits in this seat right now believes that the new health care law is the only solution and that it's a very successful solution. Well, guess what? My patients don't say so. And neither does my experience with my brother, who just recently got diagnosed with cancer. If his big sister wasn't a doctor, he wouldn't have a diagnosis within a week. It would probably be about a month before he would ever find out that he had cancer. And that's not right. That's not what I went to medical school for. Life has changed, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm here to bring prosperity, opportunity, fight for my patients, fight for children. Our education system is not what it should be, but we cannot allow the government on a federal level to micromanage our kids' lives. If these are things that you want, then I suggest you join me on my campaign, Annette for Congress. Because I'm ready and willing and able to roll up my sleeves as I always have for you and for my country. God bless America. And God bless all of you. Annette Tejero for Congress. Thank you.
We have one question left. Yolanda, we have your question. And again, candidates, I ask you keep it short. What is your question?
Okay, my question, I think 3. Okay, first, what the benefit our military, our loved ones, when they come back in, you know what I mean? Because my son, he been toured twice in Iraq, and then he came back in a war, and then suddenly he got illness, he got the virus, and then I've been 24/7, 3 months, stay with him in a hospital, and then he passed away. He got the virus, he passed away from the virus in the war. So how you gonna help our military issue when they come back from the war and then this virus is not affected and then later on it's gonna be affected? How are you gonna help those?
What candidate would like to answer? Who's the first? Okay, go ahead, come on. Again, we're getting close to the time, so we're going to keep it short if we would, please.
Truth, trust, integrity, and honor. You have to deal with the truth.
Yes.
Now, that's the biggie. If the veterans that are returning from overseas are not properly diagnosed, if the lie about the Gulf War syndrome is perpetuated, if those diagnoses are not true, then you've got a problem. There isn't anything that anybody can do. You have to have the truth come out. Now, when you have our state leaders, like Senator Harry Reid, calling veterans domestic terrorists and prohibiting them from having guns, you are labeling somebody right off the bat. And how do you combat that? You combat that by telling the truth. That's all it is. Everything that we do, everything that governs us, has to be based on the truth. So that's the bottom line. You can come up and you can color whatever you want. If you don't tell the truth, then you're done.
Yep.
Each of us is looking to hold a different office, and all we can do is what our office allows us to do. We do a little lobbying on the side, but for Lieutenant Governor, what I'd want to do is ensure that the veterans get a good paying job. And like when I worked at the VA hospital and other government facilities, veterans got preference for a job, disabled vets got a little bit more. So I would do everything I can to bring the jobs here and ensure that the vets get priority over other people, as they should have, for serving our country and putting their life at risk.
Thank you.
Veterans in this world are not puppets. They don't get thrown in the corner after they're dealt with, but that's what they've turned out to be. I blame the top for a lot of years. They are the celebrities of this country, and they should be treated as such. As far as that, I've been working with a gentleman named Carl Dick, VFW. He was in the Vietnam War. We're trying to create a program right now so when young veterans come home that they have a bigger brother to go to. It's like an AA program, but it's for veterans that's been there and done that. A lot of these veterans they have pride, they have egos, they don't want to say that they have a problem. But if they have a buddy over here crying with them, they can open up and tell them their story, and they can tell them what they've been through back in Vietnam or World War II, and they can translate that story to them, and they can build a brotherhood together and grow and become more stable. And that's one thing I've been working on, but let's take care of our veterans. Thank you.
Okay, to answer your specific question, we just need a better VA. Okay?
Yeah, right.
That's all, that's what we need. If we have doctors that care and we have people that care about our veterans that come back, we can overcome that. That's not a big problem, okay? The bigger problem that I've been hearing here is jobs. Is jobs pretty much the number one? Because I'll tell you the one thing that'll get you your job, that'll get you higher pay, that'll get you more cash in your pocket, and that's something that Dr. Annette Tierro is going to do, and she's going to co-sponsor HR 25, the Fair Tax Act. Now, what does that mean to you? That means you get gross pay instead of net pay. That means you get $100 a month from the federal government. That fully funds Social Security, fully funds disability, makes prices drop 12%. It makes the economy go up over 10% and unemployment go below 4%. And it's bipartisan. Democrats love it too. The question is, can we get it done? Dr. Annette Tierro, she'll co-sponsor.
The Marine Corps gives you honor, courage, and commitment. That's what we've grown up to be, and that's who we are. I want to say I am sorry for your loss, but I also want to thank you for your gift. And that's just where it's at. With veterans, there's a lot of issues. If you think about it, our World War II veterans don't really get along very well with Vietnam veterans. Our Korean veterans don't get along real well, or Kuwaiti veterans. Or Kuwaiti veterans don't get along real well. It's amazing. But there's a lot of things you can do, and I'm just going to tell you, we even have to look at mental health. If we don't start tackling mental health, we got some problems. And that's where we got to start looking at our money. And that's where Congress has come in with veterans things. Today, almost all the VA, top brass in the federal government has been fired. I just heard on news that it's coming in.
Alrighty then. Everybody's looking at me because it is at Congress. This is on a federal level. I first of all want to thank you. It's hard for us to share our loved one and not have them again.
Yep.
I have 2 sons. I know what that would feel like. I don't claim to be in your shoes. But you know, when veterans go into these foreign areas and put their lives out on the line, they don't expect to be slapped when they come back.
No. Yep.
And I personally have worked in a veterans hospital when I was a medical student and as a resident. There's a huge bureaucracy there, and it's gotten worse. Our government has mushroomed. It's gone beyond its service purpose. And frankly, there is a bill out, HR and I forget the exact number, but it's like 1140. And it's the Veterans System Accountability Act. And you betcha that I would support anything that makes the people that work inside that system a lot more accountable to the vets. Because I believe that we should be able to give our veterans the best care. And if we can't get it at one hospital, they should be able to go to the hospital of their choice, where their family members can be with them, and they should be able to go there to get their care. There's no reason to imprison them only in VA hospitals. We need to have more flexibility, ladies and gentlemen. Not only the funding, but the flexibility. Then we'll see better care for our veterans. They've given everything for us. Let's give them everything back.
So, Econ made investments across seas, neighboring states, whatever. Assistant Attorney General David Otto, Esquire, was the head of the fraud section. He filed a complaint against Econ because they stole our money. That complaint went into the Washoe County District Attorney's or District Court and got shoved underneath the rug. That money is now worth $2.2 billion, and they still have it. Thanks.
I live in rural Nevada, mostly Republican, so Democrat doesn't have much of a chance, but I've run for Commissioner, Assembly, and Senate. And I want to tell you, I've been to many candidates nights, and this is the most wonderful one I've ever attended. Thank you very much.
I want to say thank you for taking the time to be here today and listen to all of us gibber. But one thing I want you guys to know is on my card it says job, job, jobs, there's a diversified economy, and build here, buy here, and hire here. What that exactly means is a lot of money leaves the state. But if we don't build here, buy here, and hire here only, we'll never be below 7.5% unemployment again. And we have to keep money in-house. Even our milk gets sent to California, we buy it back. Our meat gets sent to California, we buy it back. We need to just hire here. I don't care if you're union, I don't care if you're a privatized construction company. Let's hire our people, let's buy our lumber from our people. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Chris Hypock. I'm running for your governor of Nevada 2014. June 10th is the primary election. Tell 10 of your friends that I'm not a millionaire, just $1 million heart. Thank you.
Okay, what I'm going to do if I'm elected to the commission is I'm going to bring common sense, logical solutions to that body. Now, if I'm the only one out of the 7 that's a Republican, I'm going to be, they're going to call me Mr. No, because I'm going to vote no on every spending bill that they cannot prove to me benefits the people of Clark County. That's the first litmus test. How does this benefit the people of Clark County? Not paying off one of your political cronies.
Once again, my name is Robert Bobby G. Gronauer, G-R-O-N-A-U-E-R. I am running for sheriff. I am the change unit. If you are change agent, if you want what you have now, then vote for what you have now. You want to make change, positive change, I'm your guy. I'm there for it all. Honor, courage, commitment. I appreciate you all being here. I think it's absolutely a wonderful thing. I appreciate you guys. I mean, what a great deal. And I appreciate the candidates that actually show up to actually face you. I think it's a good deal. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not angry. I'm not anything. I just want to do a good job like we've done in the past. Thank you.
All right, I guess I came late. I get to wrap up late. Well, I didn't tell you, but I do want to tell you what my plan B is, by the way, just so you know. If I make it to Congress, which I think I will, and they don't do what we need them to do, I'm an anesthesiologist by trade. Can you guess what I'm going to do? I will put them all to sleep into a beautiful slumber. We'll get everything done that we need to have, and then we'll wake them up and tell them that they did everything that they were supposed to do and we're done. So that's plan B.
Thank you, everybody. Ron Carlone, will you come up here with the closing statements? And then afterwards, if the candidates want to stay, we can stay and do some one-on-one.
Ladies and gentlemen, actually my fellow veterans, I know most everybody here is. First, I'd like to thank the Veterans Report News that in a short notice put this all together. This is what is needed for veterans. This is getting the message across. A couple of things I want to relate to you. Today at a luncheon, and for a specific party, we had Adam Laxalt for Attorney General. After his remarks, the first question was that if he's Attorney General, will he support Nevada's veterans who are not getting the care they need through the VA, especially our older senior veterans? It's on everybody's lips, the veterans, long overdue. I want to make a comment too, and discuss this with Sue and some other folks. I served 29 years in the Navy. I'm a retiree and I'm on TRICARE. I can go anytime to a doctor or civilian, almost my choice. We have a system for veterans, for the non-retirees, that yes, there's some infrastructure, but it's obvious not enough. And when there isn't enough, things start to happen. Maybe we need a system, and there was a good point brought up, where every veteran has the same process system to use.